This week on Full Credit to the Noise, Kai Allen gets his shoulders out, while Brody gets his bucket and spade out, and Walkinshaws get their owner's manual out. Welcome to Full Credit to the Noise. Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Full Credit to the Noise. You can find this podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at FCTTN Podcast. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Facebook at former_legend. You can find the bloke across me on Twitter at AVL_motorsport. He's on Instagram at AVL.motorsport. He's the man who this week has controversially called for all beaches in Western Australia to be nudist beaches. He has estimated that he could have won 15 gold medals in the Commonwealth Games. And tonight he's wearing socks and Jesus sandals. Welcome to Speed Cafe's Andrew Van Leeuwen.
Hello, Former. We did take a bit of a dig at the Com Games this time last week when we did the show. But I've got to be honest, it got a big run in the Airbnb up near the track at Wanneroo over the weekend. And there was some interesting stuff happening in the velodrome. I don't know if you watched any of this, but this was probably just sort of late night programming when we were sort of finished work for the day quite late. But I did not know tandem biking was an athletic pursuit at all.
Yeah.
But it is. And it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my whole entire life.
Must be frustrating to turn around and see the bloke behind you up with his feet up on the handlebars reading. But
you should Google it and have a look at some of the videos from the Com Games, because I wouldn't be worried about his feet position. It's his nose position that really is interesting. It's right up the clacker of the bloke
the old
steering
brown
the thing.
nose.
Yep, it is right up the clacker. It is. Yeah, there were many laughs had about the tandem biking.
Would you be the follower or the leader, would you think, in that sort of situation?
I'd be pretty embarrassed to be either of them, to be honest. It was. It was. I did make the comment, short of the guy behind having his arms around the front cyclist's waist, it probably couldn't get too much more embarrassing. But good for a laugh.
I feel like that given the lycra that some of the blokes wear around here over the weekends, that would just suit them to the ground to have the old nose up the old coit and the bloke in front of him. So that would complete the outfit.
Yeah.
Well, mate, just so you do know, on the weekend I watched probably 8 minutes of Radicals the entire weekend, but that's 8 minutes more than the Commonwealth Games I saw. So we start over there in Perth. Looked like a good weekend.
It was. Yeah.
The racing was good. It was the Bosch Power Tools Super 440. Race 1 on Saturday, Matt Payne. It was a party for Matt Payne, basically, from Ryan Wood and Anton. So there was one car from each camp on the podium. And then on race 2, Broc Feeney from Triple Eight. Remember them? That was a team that used to be good years and years ago. He got a win in race 2, snapping the squad's longest podium drought in 20 years from Matt Payne and Kai Allen, so all forwards on race 2. And then race 3, Matt Payne won with 3.5 working tyres, AVL, ahead of Broc Feeney, who had 2.5 working tyres, and Anton, who had 4 working tyres but was on a Chev.
Yeah.
So it was quite the racing over the weekend. I actually was pleasantly surprised, I'm not going to lie.
The racing was excellent, and Wanneroo does throw up good racing. It's a conversation we had many times over the weekend, because if you look at the makeup of the circuit, and this is where circuit design is a tricky thing, because what makes a great driving circuit doesn't make a great racing circuit. And you look at somewhere like Queensland Raceway, it's a great racing circuit, even if it's not some sort of massive driving challenge. Wanneroo's a funny one because there's a lot of setup compromise that has to go into it. Some quite long corners if you look at turn 1, then the left-hander, and obviously the bowl. But then you sort of go through the bowl and you've got a long straight and a stop corner, and then you've got another long straight and another heavy braking zone. So it's actually perfect for passing, because you can set someone up out of the bowl and pass them, but then they've always got the opportunity to switch it back and pass you back into turn 1. So it creates good racing, and we definitely saw good racing. All 3 of those races were really good supercars races. And I think there's 2 factors to that, and one is obviously, as I just pointed out, the circuit design, but the other one is that, Triple Eight they're back. Well, they certainly were over the weekend, but Groves haven't gone anywhere. So we're kind of, are we looking at our next era of 2 powerhouses, Grove Racing and Triple Eight, not dissimilar to Triple Eight and DJR Team Penske was the last kind of heavyweight battle that we had. We've got that, and that really is what makes supercars racing amazing. So, it was, it was, that's exciting. That's an exciting thought looking towards the back end of the season. Having Triple Eight being strong isn't always a great thing for the sport if there's no one to go with them, but there is a team to go with them. Like Grove Racing are on it. They are right there. So, yeah, Matt Payne against Broc Feeney. That's going to be a fun thing to watch for the rest of the season.
Throw a little bit of Brody Kostecki in there as well, and you've got quite the mix.
Cam Waters on his day, both like either Tickford Car on their day. Anton, 2 podiums on the weekend, so he's in the mix as well. And then the Walkinshaw guys, they have their ups and downs, and they certainly had both of those over the Perth weekend. But it's all building quite nicely heading into the Enduro and then final season.
Yeah. Champagne and Shizen, we do each round. The Champagne, let's start there. Trans Am AVL, I don't know whether you caught any of it. I know sometimes it's hard to sort of catch some of the supports, but Saturday's race between Toddy Hazelwood and Jared Hughes was an absolute barn burner, I believe that was the term.
I saw it. I actually watched most of the Trans Am racing, and it was fantastic.
Although on Sunday, the multi-car crash put Toddy in front of the field, and everyone took a turn at having a hit at him. But Jared Hughes went on to take his second Trans Am Cup Series victory. So that was awesome racing, I've got to say.
I thought that was, not to say I didn't rate Jared Hughes before. He's obviously a very good race car driver, but that's the most impressive weekend I've seen him put together in a race car.
That Saturday race where he just didn't panic, didn't just jam it down there once he caught Todd, had a look at where he was going to get him and made the pass with a few to go. I thought that was extremely mature.
That's a drying track as well. So the tricky part there was he actually had, obviously, Todd was so fast at the start when it was a bit wetter. Obviously, he'd kind of gone into the race with tyre pressures that worked early in the race, and then you could see Jared just come at him. But the issue is on a track like that where you're on slicks, it's drying, you end up with a dry line. So executing a pass is just so incredibly difficult because once you're off that line, the grip all disappears. So that's what made that really impressive for me. And I actually had a brief text exchange with Barry Ryan on Sunday night, and we were actually just discussing that, the fact that that was just such a complete weekend for Jared. Like he really that was a breakthrough sort of weekend, I feel, for him, particularly in a Trans Am sense.
He beat some class behind him too, so it was a really good win. My second champagne for the weekend goes to Craig Baird, and who we don't mind leaning into if he does make what we deem to be an error. But on the weekend, especially Saturday, there was a coming together between Brody Kostecki and Kai Allen at Turn 1, resulted in Brody building sandcastles, essentially. But the best part about it was, AVL, the decision from Beto was quick, stating that it was a racing incident, which I actually believe was correct, but also it was done quickly. So there was no second guessing or, will they apply a penalty or not? It was all done clean and quick. And I think that as a racing fan, that's what you want to see. Yeah,
totally. No, I couldn't agree more. I think that it was actually quite a simple, I feel like, I didn't speak to Beto about it, but I feel like it would have been quite a simple decision because
I agree, although
even
I had
though
an
it
argument
looks
with a mate yesterday about it.
No, to me it was clear cut, reasonably quick. Like one replay. Obviously, the tricky part was that Kai kind of ends up out of control up the inside, but only when he's squeezed off the track and he drops the front right into the dirt, effectively on the inside of the track. Before that, he's completely in control of the car. He's a fair way up the inside, and Brody just turns down on him. And that's at the end of the day, I think that if there'd been a different outcome where Kai had ended up with a bunch of damage and it really cost him in the race and Brody had kept it on the road and kept going, then it wouldn't have been a racing incident. That would have been a penalty for Brody, but it was kind of a self-penalised scenario. Like the car that was at fault ended up in the sand.
Yep.
So there's no reason for race control to interject, and that's absolutely perfect. So, I think that was... I totally agree. Because the last thing you want to do, obviously you don't want to see bad racing. You don't want... If Kai just got in his rear bar and pushed him off the track, you can't have that. But if there'd been a penalty for Kai for that, that's just... Like, how do you incentivise guys to go racing if they can't do that? So
totally agree.
I think it was a completely clear-cut thing. Brody didn't say much about it, but I would imagine that his racing IQ is very high, and he would understand that he had to give Kai a bit more room there.
My third champagne actually goes to Kai because I feel like AVL over the past, well, let's just say the past 12 months, he is dead set showing that he's no one's punching bag.
Yeah.
He's had run-ins with Woody recently a few times, which was highlighted on the TV, but then also again on Saturday with Brody. And he's still fast and he shows the maturity to get a result when maybe he's not the fastest dude on the day, maybe he's not the fastest Penrite car on the day, but he still seems to grab a second, third, fourth, which in the way that the whole championship is structured is perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
And I just feel like if Matty Payne does leave and go to Chev, which, is still what the word says, I feel like they should be throwing all their eggs into the Kai Allen basket to make sure that he's still there.
Well, they did sign a contract extension with him, sort of amid all this stuff going on. I'm guessing for that reason, just to sort of kind of take him off the market and ensure that there is no risk that someone else is going to come along and try and nab him. But yeah, no, it was a good weekend for Kai, and certainly in that Brody exchange, I really liked his comments after the race where he very carefully explained the situation and said that he was proud of himself for staying in it, because he deserved to be on that part of the track at that moment.
Yeah.
And then he actually said that he felt what Brody did was pretty dumb, given the fact that Brody at that point was still in the mix for the Sprint Cup, and that effectively took him out of the running for the Sprint Cup, being classified 24th in that race. So that's you got to have some swagger going if you're willing to make an enemy that powerful, I reckon, because yeah, Brody's not someone you really want offside when you're out there on track. But yeah, it was a good weekend for Kai. Obviously, Sunday was compromised by the qualifying issue, but a great drive through the field to get back to fifth.
Great drive.
And he did a lot to kind of, it felt like a strong weekend for him, even though he was pretty comprehensively outclassed on pace by his teammate.
And my final champagne for the weekend is just the crowd's AVL, because they've just released the crowd figures. They're up 15% from last year, 40,000 people over the weekend. I've got to say, it looked pretty healthy on TV, and I know over the weekend you mentioned in the Discord that it was noticeably, people
Definitely.
Around,
yeah.
which is great, given the location of the track and given that, probably people are now waiting for the street track to kick off. I actually think it was very encouraging to see that crowd on the weekend.
It really was, and so that was the highest figure that's been quoted by Supercars since 2016, so in 10 years. And you never, we take the piss out of the crowd numbers. You never quite know, they count all the accreditation holders, whether they're there or not, and this and that. So, but regardless of what the actual number was, the idea that it was the best attended event since 2016, completely plausible. It felt like that. Absolutely no argument on the fact that it was a better crowd than we've seen in recent years, at the very least. It felt there was a good buzz around the place. It felt busy. It felt like a big event, and it hasn't really felt like that in the last few years. So I don't really know what to put that down to. It could be as simple as kind of the whole, when you got a kid and it's it's not playing with the toy, and then you say, well, I'm going to take that toy off you, and it says, hey, no, I love that toy.
I really like that toy.
Sort of it almost felt a little bit like that. There's this bit of a kind of resurgence in interest in Wanneroo, because, if everything goes to plan from Supercars' side of things, then that was the penultimate round there for the foreseeable future. So it's good. It was a really positive weekend, and it really felt like one. And the weather was good, and it was great.
For every champagne, there's a Shizen. So we have done this to death, but I'm just not going to stop flogging the dead horse, essentially. The Supercars graphics on the weekend, AVL, went 3 steps backwards. If we'd made some gains over the last few rounds, then we were back into the doldrums. It started on Friday when they labelled Broc Feeney as David Cedars. I mean, an easy mistake to make. They're very, very similar in appearance, and we've all done it. But and it's not like, I don't want to sound like we're being overly harsh, but this is now becoming a pretty ongoing, serious problem. On Q2 on Saturday, we had no clock on the screen to tell us how long was left in the session. So we were just guessing as to how long until the checkered flag came out. Then on Sunday during qualifying, I don't understand this, but during Boost Mobile qualifying, position 11 was a blue square. Then positions 12 through to 19 were, at best what I could tell, radical competitors, which it's an astonishing feat for them. They must have really got their money's worth by getting over there and getting amongst the supercars as well. And back into the top 10 is quite impressive too for a radical. So,
I raced Garrett Piper in Formula Ford, and I've got to say, being like top 15 in supercars, I didn't expect that. It's a big move for
but,
Big Garrett.
Maybe money buys results, and maybe Garrett's got some cash. I don't know. But and then on Sunday afternoon, we got a wrap-up of where the Sprint Cup positions are at the moment. Chaz Mostert went down a position. Woody went up a position, yet no one went ahead of Mostert. So how has he gone down a position, AVL? I'm not great at maths, and you wouldn't want me to do your tax, but Jesus, it's just an ongoing. And some people might say it's nitpicking, but it's not, because I tell you something now. My inbox was jammed full on Instagram with people sending me screenshots and what about this, what about this. They're basic, simple things, and it's now almost becoming inexcusable. They've got to fix it.
Yeah, look, it's a well-known problem. I don't disagree that it's something that they need to get on top of. It's not something we really see in the broadcast of other major sports, like such glaring errors. Or maybe we do and we don't notice it because we follow this sport more closely, but I don't feel like we do. But, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. I've said it before. Surely it's something that I would really hope that it's a recognised problem and something that there's a lot of work going in to fix. On some positives on the broadcast, like it felt like they're really starting to get on top of the driver radio stuff. Like the quality of the radio is so much better, and it's such a great addition to the broadcast to have that radio. Like it just tells the story of the race so much better having it. So that's something that they did do well over the weekend. I do want to come back to David Cedars quickly because it was quite funny seeing Triple Eight and the Super Ute Series sort of leaning into that thing. They had Triple Eight had David Cedars at the podium celebration,
which is great on one hand, but we're essentially making light of what's just an ongoing shitty problem that I don't see in any other major sports presentation right now.
No, I fully understand that, and I definitely don't disagree. But the one bit of footage you need to see over the weekend, and I'm not sure if you did see it, but David Cedars had the onboard camera in his Super Ute, and that bloke, like,
chilled,
running in the top 5, coming through the bowl, counter steering, like fighting the car on the way out of the bowl, one-handing the steering wheel.
Yeah, it
was amazing. It was some of the coolest footage I've ever seen. It was.
He looks like your old man backing a box trailer up at the dump, doesn't he?
He had a hand on the gear. His hand sort of comes off as it has a big slide, and he just goes, I think 2 hands are for beginners, mate. No need to put that hand back on the steering wheel, and just rests it on the gear lever well before he needs to make a gear shift, and just keeps fighting the steering wheel with one hand, and just looking cool as a cucumber. It was one of my highlights of the weekend.
It's not your classic race car driver's posture. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah,
but doesn't mind a recline.
Yeah. He looks like he's in a Formula One car, but he's in a dual cab. It's a fair departure, but it's
in itself.
It was that was cool. So that was the sort of spotlight being on David Cedars was a lot of fun across the whole weekend in a lot of different ways.
My next Shizen, and we spoke about this before the weekend, is the reprofiled turn 3 curb. I mean, every lap I watch cars straddle what used to be one of the most spectacular sights of the year, AVL, when they used to two-wheel through there. You try to tell me it's not that much different these days, but it's nothing like it used to be, where they used to really launch and fly.
You might be right there in terms of the reprofiling of that, because I had sort of forgotten that they did redo that whole section to put the motorcycle chicane in there.
Yeah.
For motorcycle racing after a couple of, I think there was some quite unfortunate crashes that resulted in deaths there, and they had to fix that part of the track. So maybe they did reprofile that curb. I guess I was sort of basing it on the fact that we don't see Gen 3 cars doing the big climb like we sort of did with the Gen 2 cars. But no, I was looking at that over the weekend, and I thought, I think that curb is different. It's not something in the Formula Ford can't go anywhere near any of those curbs. So it's not something that you I wouldn't know if it's changed because you don't touch them anyway because, you could pluck a wheel off on some of those things.
No, I'm glad you brought up the deaths anyway. It's always easy to follow up with a couple of jokes after that, so well done.
Sorry, mate.
We'll just take a couple of minutes break if you don't mind. Now, listen, my next Shizen, and look, this is just from a TV viewer's point of view, but the whole pre-race thing of just grid chats and associated bullshit. I know, look, I understand it. I know why it happens, and it's almost every major motorsport series does it. But seriously, from a TV viewer's point of view, the hour lead up to a supercars race is so boring and deflating, and rarely do you get pumped by all the hullabaloo before the lights go out. Now, if they ever fix the graphics problem, that should be their priority right now. I'm not going to lie. This should be the next thing that the TV team work on. And I don't know what the answer is, but just give us something that's a little bit more juicy. And but let's get the graphics right, and let's not talk about the anthem either while we're there. AVL, whew, jeez.
It's a funny thing because I don't feel qualified to talk to this at all because I never watch the build up on TV. Like that's the time when you are out and about, when you are at the races, and there's certainly been a lot of emphasis put on by the production team about like trying to make sure that when you're at the event, it feels like an event. So, they go big on the music and all that sort of stuff. And I think they've done a good job with that. Like it does, the grid is a cool place to be. So the kind of build up on the ground is really good. And I think it is a good thing to have some difference between the at-track experience and the TV experience because, we can talk about crowds all we want, but one of the key reasons why the hill's not as full behind the S's at Wanneroo as it was 15 years ago is because it's just so easy to watch, even on pay TV. Like it's live, it's right there, it's accessible, it's affordable realistically. And that's one of the things that, modern sport has to deal with. The fact that
I get that
watching it is so easy. So, and I'm not saying that the at-track experience, like the broadcast experience should be dumbed down because of the at-track experience. But I think you'll find that there's just been energy put into trying to create this energy at the track, and they have done a good job of it. You can feel it. The grid is a cool place to be. So
I'll cop all that. But as a viewer who's 5 hours away.
Yeah, who can't? I get that. I totally get
just
that.
Sitting there.
Yeah.
And what they need, in my opinion, and it wouldn't be that hard, but I mean, at least Martin Brundle makes it bearable sometimes, where he goes around.
Cringeworthy. I love it.
Yes,
it's my favourite part of a Grand Prix weekend. Don't get me wrong.
Sometimes I despise it, and sometimes I think, beautiful. At least it's something, and that's what I think they need instead of these generic, "What do you expect them to do today?" questions. Forget that. Go and ask some, some either lighthearted or some niggling questions, and find someone who's got the personality to do it. Because as a TV viewer, nothing against anyone who's doing TV right now, but I don't want to hear, "What are you hoping today? Can you pass a few? Do you expect to get a win?" I mean, that is hit 'em up and knock 'em down bullshit. So, my last thing. And I don't know whether you saw this. You probably didn't. But there's this thing now on the screen called pass probability. Did you see this?
I didn't actually notice it during the broadcast, but I'm seeing it on the rundown here.
Yeah. Now, they've now got a stat that's telling you what percentage chance someone will pass someone else on track. And I don't know how they're figuring it out, and I don't know. But what in the VB hard-earned Bunnings Power Pass Driver of the Day bullshit is this, AVL? Let's just get the graphics right before we get too fancy with all this other rubbish that is absolutely meaningless, that's crept into the rugby league, it's crept into the AFL, and now it's creeping into
it's in the round ball game as well, expected goals and all that sort of stuff. They do this in F1 as well, and I do agree that it kind of I agree on firstly that it's actually meaningless. Like it doesn't mean
meaningless.
Like what's the pass probability unless you the level of data on tire grip, thermal degradation, like this the level of data you would need to actually properly analyze this is unattainable.
Yes.
And I love immersive broadcast. I like giving people watching the broadcast as much info as possible. But this is just, it is just nonsense. Like it's just, it's meaningless.
Rubbish.
And why would you say, there's a 16% chance of a pass? Like you should be talking up the chance of a pass. Like
True.
Like it's
So
kind
true.
of so something like that. Like you can give away too many secrets as well.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of actual, athlete stats, team performance stats, data, all that sort of stuff, that's not giving much away. But coming up with some sort of, there's a 16 or a 32 or a 90% chance of this. Like just let the race play out. Like let the story unfold itself. So yeah, I agree. Like I said, I didn't see it in the broadcast, but that's an odd one. But it is very on trend with modern sports broadcasting across a range of codes.
The other night in rugby league, and sorry if you're not a rugby league fan, but just stick with me here. There was a final score the other night of 82-12. Now
I did see that.
And did you know, with 5 minutes to go, they had to hide to show us the Red Bull momentum tracker? Which way do you reckon the momentum was going, AVL?
I thought there was a win probability one going to show up there. That was actually Stefan Bartholomeus, my colleague, and I had gone out for dinner, and we were at a pub, and Stefan, who's from South Australia, I was from Western Australia, said, I don't know much about NRL, but that scoreline seems a bit out of whack. I was like,
problematic.
I reckon you're right,
at
mate.
Least. Yeah, the momentum tracker. It was all the Roosters' way. You wouldn't believe it at 82 points to 12. There wasn't a lot coming back the other way. So
that's great.
I just don't think we need that kind of stuff. But I understand maybe it's just modern necessity. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, if this was commercialized, like there was a sponsor attached to it, you sort of go, yeah, okay, they've built an asset to sell, and I assume that's probably the plan for this thing. But at the moment, it's not, and anyway, it's a modern trend, so. I don't.
Who would sponsor the past probability? A kidney stone company?
That's a good one. That's good. That's a good joke.
All right, let's go to the Shift Cup because there is other news getting around, mainly supercars.
4, 3, 1.
And we start with Roland Dane on Thursday emphatically denying a report claiming that Nick Percat was offered a mid-season supercars return with Premier Racing. Fox Sports Motor Racing 360 program this week aired a big exclusive, in inverted commas, that Percat had been approached to take Declan Fraser's seat effective immediately. The program declared Percat knocked back a loose offer in order to fulfil his contract with Red Bull Ampol Racing for the Enduro Cup. Speculation has swirled over Fraser's future amid a tough 2026 season. Premier Team Principal Roland Dane told Speed Cafe in Perth that he was absolutely amazed to hear a claim that Percat had been offered the seat. Not a shred of truth to it. He said not even a gnat of truth. He said he owns a building in which Percat's J&D racing driver development team is based, and the only time he's been in contact with him was to tell him that there was a fire alarm or a smoke alarm or something. Now, just tell me, where did this headline come from? Is it Mr. Phelps? Is he back at it? Is that where it originated from?
It was a James Phelps story. Look, I'm not going to seek the boot into another journo because I know the process and none of us are perfect and all that sort of stuff. So, but this one does feel like it was a fair way wide of the mark. I had a brief text exchange with Nick about it, and he seemed to find it fairly humorous and probably funny. It was there. So it was Stefan who spoke to Roland about this, and Roland didn't know the story existed until Stefan brought it up with him, and then B, after telling him that the last time I spoke to Nick was when the fire alarm went off at the J&D Racing headquarters, proceeded to show Stefan the text message exchange about it, and there was nothing.
Well, you know what they say, AVL, so, where there's smoke.
Yeah. I think in this case there's not a lot of fire.
Right.
So, look, we all know that there's that 777 seat at Premier is a big question mark for next year, but Roland is really sticking to his guns that he's going to let Declan see out the year. So, things can change quickly, but the Percat story does seem that it was a bit wide of the mark.
Broc Feeney, second place on Sunday, hit hard for the entire Triple Eight camp. Feeney himself saying in the immediate aftermath that he was gutted with the outcome. That sentiment was echoed by team principal Jamie Whincup, who said his team had thrown away a win through two factors, setup choice and strategy. He said, we were able to put in a much more respectable performance this weekend, but we're talking 10 minutes after the last race and I'm a little bit cut. We just got beaten. We had the fastest car in qualifying, clearly, and then the shootout. And then we detuned it for the race, and car 19 was just faster. And then we made two errors as far as strategy goes, and that just pissed away the win. Mark Dutton later clarified the strategic error was putting too much fuel in the 88 Mustang during both stops. He said, we've got the strategy wrong, basically. We were too conservative in both stops. Grove Racing has shown time and time again that they are nailing these things. This is very un-Triple Eight.
Oh, I don't know that it is. Like this was a very
fuel's never been their strong point. Let's be honest.
This was it was the opposite problem because they were too conservative on the fuel and they were putting too much in. And we know that with these tunes, basically what Mark Dutton was saying was that they should have put less fuel in because it was so close when Broc and Matt came out of the pits that it wouldn't have taken a much shorter field to get Broc out ahead. And they should have done that and then just said to Broc, over to you, mate. You got to get her home and get her home in first place. And they just didn't quite, they were just too conservative. So the fact that, the reason that I say it felt very Triple Eight is that given where they were at across the Darwin and Townsville weekends, the fact that by Sunday night, on Saturday night there was still, I spoke to Jamie both nights, there was still a bit of like, let's not get too excited about kind of whether we're really back in the mix here or not because this is one race and all that sort of stuff. By Sunday night, he was absolutely fuming that they got beaten by a couple of fractions of a second to the race win, and that to me was kind of the sign that they feel like they know what they're doing now, and not winning is unacceptable. Whereas that wasn't the case the last couple of rounds. They weren't even close to it. Like they were nowhere near it. So. Yeah,
to be honest, Broc Feeney cops some backlash on social media that I just don't understand. I like the fact that someone gives a shit. And I like the fact that if a bloke carries his divots around and says that, I got beaten and I'm filthy on it, I'd rather that than someone saying, we did a great job, we did this, and it was just beaten by a faster car today. Mate, give me someone with a bit of emotion any day of the week. And the fact that that kid is upset at a second, I think speaks volumes of what the level that they expect and the level that's been set by that team. And I think that's a bad thing.
No, I totally agree. He just suffers from being the new Jamie Whincup because at the end of the day, the kind of the hate that Jamie has copped from a lot of the fan base over many years is actually unwarranted. Like it's actually, he's a good guy. Like he just takes his racing very seriously, and it's very much the same with Broc. So, but that's kind of the territory of being the powerhouse, like kind of.
I get that.
So I think it's just it is that is all that it really is, and that's something that Broc's just going to have to live with. But, if you're living with it while winning a ton of championships and Bathurst, then it's probably pretty easy to live with.
Mm-hmm. Ryan Wood failed to take the start of Sunday's Perth Super 440 finale. He was forced to pull his Walkinshaw TWG Supra into the garage on the formation lap. The team initially worked to get the car out to score some points before admitting defeat as the lap 20 cutoff lapsed. The result came as Walkinshaw TWG Racing gave an upgraded, Toyota Supercars engine its first laps today at Wanneroo. The Japanese marque's first season sport has been blighted by repeated failures of its 5.2-litre engine. Toyota homologation team Walkinshaw partnered with UK-based Swindon Powertrains to develop the bespoke version of the V8. A series of valve train failures has been experienced since the first Supra hit the track last September. The parties have now been working on a B-spec engine. I'm not sure I'd be calling it B-spec AVL, but we'll get back to that in a minute, for months in order to have reliability woes solved by October's Bathurst 1000. Speed Cafe has learnt the first upgraded engine arrived at Wanneroo on Friday, having already passed through Supercars Brisbane Dyno. Don't call it B-spec. Call it Series 2.
Yeah, mate. Look, I don't know anyone. It's not formally known as B-Spec. I think
right.
that was something that Stefan came up with on quite late
Stefan,
on Sunday night after we when we were putting that story together, and that was a story broken by Speed Cafe. But yeah, the car ran. So we're recording on Monday evening, quite late because I was at the track today watching that car go round. So they certainly pumped through a few miles on that B-Spec motor today. It'll run again at the Bend on Friday. There's quite a number of cars testing on. So there's six cars testing on Friday at the Bend. There's a wildcard test for the super cheap car. There's 4 rookies running, and then the Chaz Mostert car, just to bank miles on that. So they're just trying to validate the new hardware that's gone into that engine. And the plan is, if everything goes well between today and the test on Friday, they can crack on with manufacturing what they need to manufacture, and hopefully have 10 upgraded B-Spec engines ready to go for the Bend.
Fair enough. Kai Allen kept his 5th place finish in yesterday's race following a lengthy post-race stewards hearing. The number 26 Grove Racing Mustang was alleged to have breached the 16 PSI minimum tyre pressure regulation, which can result in disqualification. CEO Brenton Grove and Head of Performance Al McVeigh were summoned to the stewards in the wake of the 200-kilometre contest. While stewards are yet to reveal details of the case, the lengthy hearing is believed to have centred on the accuracy of the reading. Have they got out today and said what it was all about?
Yeah, there was a stewards report that came out today that explains a fair bit. You can read all of that on speedcafe.com as well. But yeah, effectively it was within a tolerance for the sensor. It certainly raised some eyebrows in the paddock. There were still people talking about it at the ride day at Wanneroo today. But this is what good teams do. They don't just win on track, they win in the stewards room as well. Something that Triple Eight has been very, very effective at for many, many years. So yeah, they managed to hang on to that 5th place for Kai Allen for something that it's very easy for, although this is technically where it sits in the rule book, a sporting breach, not a technical breach, it is normally a disqualification. But there were enough mitigating circumstances to avoid that.
That'll get us. Matt Payne's victory in the opener on Saturday secured the Supercars manufacturers title for Ford. They've now won 20 races this season after the weekend, compared to just 3 for newcomer Toyota and 2 for Chevrolet. With 12 races remaining, Ford's tally cannot be beaten. It marks the first time since 2020 that Ford has taken the champion manufacturer honours. Ford is expected to snatch back that award this year following the defection of powerhouse team Triple Eight. However, Triple Eight has delivered just 4 of Ford's win, with 6 apiece for Grove and Dick Johnson Racing and 2 for Tickford. I thought it was great, fantastic and funny that they gave the sign for Matt Payne to hang up. So hold up.
That was, yes, that was pointed out by multiple people over the weekend, the irony of that.
Mate, would you leave that team? There must be a good deal coming. GT World Challenge Australia organisers are on the search for a big-name driver to join the grid in Adelaide. After preliminary plans fell through, Speed Cafe revealed that SRO Motorsports Australia had lined up ex-Red Bull racing driver Yuki Tsunoda to race at the Adelaide Grand Prix. Adelaide Grand Prix. Geez, they were the days. The Adelaide Grand Final, until it was blocked by the F1 team. Had the deal come together, Tsunoda would have joined Tagani Motorsport in a Mercedes. The promoter also sought to have Jack Doohan join the grid. As yet, the two parties have not come to an agreement. Yes, it's cool.
Yeah, it's all built around the fact that there's, I think, 3 Supercars drivers that race regularly in GT World Challenge Australia that won't be able to do that round because obviously it clashes with their Supercars commitment. So there's a bit of a scramble on to find drivers to come in there. And we know that once the SA Motorsport Board gets involved, this was SRO actually, but anything, they would still have the support of the SA Motorsport Board to do stuff like this because that's what they love. It's all about, can we get F1 cars here? Can we get NASCAR here? Can we get whatever here? They go big. So there's other cases where this wouldn't be a believable... Yeah, exactly. There's other cases where this wouldn't be a believable story, but in this case, for that event, you go, yeah, that seems about right.
We'll just belt through this next story, but Ollie Behrman has reaffirmed his commitment to Ferrari and dismissed a potential move to Aston Martin. I mean, why the hell would you? apparently he's lined up ready to go for Ferrari, but obviously Lewis Hamilton's boost in performance has sort of stalled that for the time being. But when asked about the possibility of going to Aston Martin, he said they're going through a tough time, but I'm sure that one day they will be incredibly strong. But I wouldn't say I'm looking towards them at this stage. Yeah, that's called good management. This is the story I wanted to touch on. Stefano Domenicali. He is starting to get a reputation, AVL. He could get a job with FIFA. He's been under fire for claiming that Formula One graphics are uninteresting to fans and that fans care only about seeing a lot of action, not the details. In a recent press briefing, the Formula One CEO said he believes F1 fans do not want to know how on-track action happens. No, of course they don't. He said no one's interested in how you drive your car. Many fans have noticed the lack of information offered when streaming F1 in 2026. Earlier in the season, timing graphics lacked decimals, which fans quickly picked up on. Then across Silverstone and Spa, the data seemed that used to be seen on the halo of the cars, showing battery power and speed and braking information, was no longer being shown. Removing the data means fans lack the information to fully understand each overtake and the car's behaviour. Speaking on what fans want to see, Domenicali continued to say, I had an interesting discussion with George Lucas in Hungary, and he was giving me an incredible view on how new fans are watching F1. They are fascinated by the fact that there is a lot of action. They are not interested in the angle of the throttle or the percentage of brake pressure on how you can overtake a driver. I think we need to go and talk to Russell Crowe about what supercar fans need moving forward.
Yeah, man who creates fiction action movies thinks that's what people want to see.
Yeah. Maybe there's two George Lucases. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tech 3 rider, I should say, Maverick Vinales has rubbished reports that KTM is seeking to depose the MotoGP veteran with immediate effect. Vinales looks set to depart the satellite squad at the end of the season, but there was a report from motorsport.com that said that he was going to get kicked out immediately and replaced by compatriot Pol Espargaro. According to the report, Espargaro would be installed in the Grand Prix of Great Britain at Silverstone, which takes place this weekend coming. Vinales wrote on social media, "Stop writing stupid articles about me. I will not race in superbikes and I will finish the year as my contract says." James Phelps was not available for comment, AVL. WRC2, Australia driver Taylor Gill finished 10th in the WRC2 class. Geez, there were some big offs in that race over there over the few days. He secured a top 10 class finish despite a 50-second penalty, which is good for him. And finally, Scotty McLaughlin's been confirmed as part of the Johor Motorsports racing lineup to tackle this year's Suzuka 1000. McLaughlin will race with Nicky Katzberg and Alexander Sims in a Corvette in an all-pro entry. The team will also enter a car in the Pro-Am division with Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, Prince Abu Bakar Ibrahim and Ben Green. And of course, as is traditional with Corvettes, they'll sandbag for the first 3 days so they can get a good parity chase up into the race. All right, we'll go to go to a break, and we'll come back with what's the forward headline from the weekend.
Full credit to the noise.
Winter could spell bad news for your vehicle's battery. Here are 3 maintenance tips from the battery gurus at R&J Batteries. 1. Avoid frequent short trips to keep your battery at a healthy state of charge. 2. Keep the battery terminals clean and corrosion-free. 3. Avoid running your accessories with the engine off for too long. If your battery is 3 years or older, it might be time to get it tested for free at your local R&J Batteries. R&J Batteries. Power like nothing else.
Yes, welcome back. We'll do what's the forward headline. We'll just look at something from the weekend and you give me a forward. Listen, I'm not going to be complaining if it goes past 4 words.
Well,
forward
no
headline.
prep here, so it'll be what it'll be. I might have 0 words for some of them.
Ryland Gray, what's your forward headline for that?
Ooh. It was important green shoots weekend for Ryle.
Another one.
There was some there was some signs of certainly in qualifying on Saturday. Some positive signs, I reckon.
My forward headline is white and red Mustang with brown stains. He got nerfed by Will Brown down in the bowl. Anyway. Will Brown, what's your forward headline for Will?
Missed the memo about the form turnaround because he didn't seem to go with the 88 in terms of getting right up the front.
I've got more Jackson Walls than Broc Feeney. What's your forward headline for Kai Allen?
Wouldn't want Brody in the mirrors. I know it was actually Brody's fault, but again, as I said before, that's a pretty powerful enemy to make out there.
Yeah, I've got wide shoulders, funky hair. I mean, I don't know what he's thinking with that haircut, but wow, it's something. Ryan Wood, what's your forward headline?
Car 2's airbox, the only thing more explosive than its radio, because it blew the top off that thing on the warm-up lap on Sunday afternoon.
Mine is, it's always Woody's car. It just seems to be, in my opinion. Yeah, he's copping the rough end of the stick there. We'll visit that in a minute in our letter of the week. What's your forward headline for Wanneroo Raceway?
I've got nothing. What do you got? What's yours?
Bigger sand traps than Augusta. Mate,
Yeah.
once you're in there, it's a
Trust
tough
me.
joint to get out of.
I know. Trust me. I know it all too well. I've seen all of them at some point in my life.
What about Dunlop tyres?
What was going on with Dunlop tyres?
Best tyre beads in the business. How that Matt Payne
Yeah.
tyre hung on. That
Yeah,
is
very good shout.
sensational. I mean, I don't know if it's great publicity or bad publicity, but surely you can turn that to good publicity, the way that
Yeah.
tyre hung on, because it looked gone.
Yep.
What about Aaron Love, who got the round victory in Super 2?
I don't have a clever headline, but that was a feel-good story. He did a great job. Absolutely great job on the weekend.
I agree. Mine is just a gentle reminder, because for everyone who says there's not much else out there, Aaron Love can drive. Don't worry about that. And finally, the Perth Bears, who appeared on the front of the Penrite cars. Have you got a forward headline for them?
I don't know where you're going with this one. I'm going to let you go there alone.
Well, you can go there. You can go one or two ways. Don't Google Perth Bears, because
Yeah.
you will end up in some crazy corners of the internet. The other one is their only win for the next 12 months, but that's a rugby league conversation for another day. Right, we'll go to a break and we'll come back with rear of grid, including credit or shred.
Full credit to the noise.
Yeah, AVL, welcome back. Now, I'll tell you something, and I'm not even mixing this up with hyperbole. What a great place to be in that Discord on the weekend. Everyone, we actually had people at the end of the weekend thanking us for what is a great place to hang out if you're not at a racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely. There was actually someone who said that they'd been umming and ahhing about joining, having listened to us do this exact spiel every week, and did, and recently, and was having a great time in there. So, yeah, it's a whole bunch of fun. We talk about it every week.
I'll tell you what, if you think you're quick on fast memes, you want to get in there and see how quick you can get one up, because GIFs are getting quicker and quicker each time. So if you're not on your A game, you're not going to get one up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but you really feel it on those race weekends. That's when it's really at its best.
It's humming. It was humming.
So much fun.
It was just a shame last night. I was like, hang on, there's no MotoGP and there's no F1.
Exactly.
This is no good.
Yeah.
We're going to do some credit or shred it. So I'm going to make a statement. You just tell me if you agree or disagree with a credit or a shred it. We'll come back after we've done all six. Number one, motorsport is the only mainstream sport where money can buy you a place in the top grade.
Yeah, I think technically it's a credit.
I'm going to say shred it because I thought of one. Number two, Trans Ams aren't a great way to prepare for racing a supercar.
Oh, shred it.
Shred it. Number three, if you cause a red flag in qualifying, that should be your session over.
Shred it.
Credit. Number four, Tickford should be prioritising Randall until the final series so they can have two cars in the top 10.
Credit, which I'll explain in a minute.
I'll say credit as well. Number five, supercars should be finding drivers who refuse to talk to the media at a race weekend about an incident and instead save it for their own social media or media.
Ooh, I'll go a shred it with a
I'm going to go credit. Quite strong on that. Number six, Williams F1 should thank Aston Martin for keeping the spotlight off just how bad they have been over the past 2 years.
Yeah, that could have a credit.
Credit. All right. Motorsport's the only mainstream sport where money buys you a place. The only other one I could think of, mate, this is wild, but then again, the only thing is it's not mainstream. Pretty sure you could throw bulk cash at a show jumping horse.
Yeah, probably. Well, I mean, horse racing is all about money. Like that's so I guess that's. But yeah, I think this is probably a reasonable statement, although I still think like you kind of like sports like tennis and golf, there's still a big advantage in having a family support network and background that can
Cruz Hewitt.
that can support a lot of travel, like and pay for travel, can support a young athlete not needing to hold down a job to support themselves and all that sort of stuff. So I think there are other sports out there that do the development path is greatly. It's made a lot easier if there's family money involved. And like I say, tennis and golf are the two sports that spring first to mind. But in terms of, like, you can just go and buy a TRC and buy a race car and go racing if you really want to and you have enough money, it is fairly unique in that respect.
The opposite is boxing, of course, where they say no champions sleep on silk sheets. So, Trans Am's aren't a great way to prepare for racing in a supercar. I said shred it.
Yeah, I think it can be. Like, it's a big, heavy V8 car. So
Yep.
nothing will ever be as good a preparation as Super 2 only because you are driving a supercar. And obviously,
Yes.
you know, this time in 2 years, Jet 3 cars will be in Super 2. So the correlation will be very, very close. But I still think Trans Am can be a very capable learning ground.
What about red flags in qualifying? Session over for you. You said
I don't.
shred it.
I said shred it. I don't. Given how quickly reds are often thrown in modern motorsport officiating, I don't really mind a driver being able to get back into the session. I've got no great
I don't know.
problem with that.
I don't know. I think if you're putting one into the sand, sending one into the sand, and they're stopping the session, I don't know.
Maybe.
Tickford should be prioritising Randall. I think this has got legs. It was brought up in the Discord over the weekend.
I say credit, but with the caveat of, you know, obviously where it's possible and where it will make a difference. But there's not too much the team can really do. They're not trying to hold him back, you know? So it's not like what do they actually kind of do? Like, you could, if they were running in formation and the extra 2 points of swapping the positions was going to make the difference at some point between now and the end of the Bathurst 1000, unless they're fighting for the win of the Bathurst 1000, of course, then they might look at doing something like that. But there's not, like, they should really be, I guess what I probably agree with more is they should have a real focus on trying to help Tom Randall get into the finals. And I'm sure they do. I'm sure that is the case. So, but there's not, in terms of prioritising, like, what do you actually kind of, like, what do you do? What's the difference?
I mean, they do owe him a couple, maybe 10 over the last couple of years where they said, we will repay you eventually. I haven't seen many being repaid, not going to lie.
But you can only do that in such specific circumstances. Like,
I get that.
Cam Waters three positions down the road. There's not much you can do to help Tommy Randall. It's. I think it's something the team will and would do, but it really requires very specific circumstances.
Supercars should be finding drivers who refuse to talk to the media and wait for their own social media or their own podcast or whatever. I actually think this was also brought up in the Discord over the weekend where a few people called out and said, you know, because Brody didn't want to talk about what happened with Kai. And it was then mentioned that Betchery does talk about it on his podcast.
Yeah.
If I'm the TV viewer or if I'm paying as a rights holder, I don't give two hoots about his podcast 3 days later. I want that front and centre. And I want it in the news as well. Like, that is what it's all about. And I don't know that there's any other sport that would cop that and say, yeah, it's fair enough.
Yeah, look, I went shred it because maybe a fine at this point would be too far to go, but I do think there should be a watching brief on this. And I'm sure there is, to be honest, from Supercars Media, which is the media arm that produces the broadcast, because there are, again, it's not like every driver has a podcast and all this sort of stuff. But,
I get that.
You know, there are a couple of drivers out there that you do have to think, are they holding a bit back at this point because they want to make an impact with their own product, which, you know, makes sense. But, given the fact that TV money is the primary revenue stream for the entire sport, it is something you have to be very, very careful with.
I totally agree. Williams should thank Aston Martin. I mean, I watched the last race and I think also Silverstone, they're diabolical. They are, given that they were telling us at the end of last year, we've stopped developing this car because we're concentrating on 2026's car. Mate, they are rubbish. And you can hear people like Alex Young can drive. Alex Young, jeez.
Alex Young, yeah.
He can drive. But they've got two drivers that can steer. And they things are happening in that car where you're hearing them say, I don't know why that just happened.
Yeah, no, totally. No, they're having a tough year, no doubt about it. But Aston Martin has spared everybody's blushes except their own.
John O'Beakoff will be so happy I've mentioned Alex Young. Our fan letter of the week comes from Kieran Kariski, and he just says this. Maybe it's a question for the pod, but I'm a huge Walkinshaw fan. But with Ryan Wood so highly regarded across pit lane, and anybody would probably sign him in a heartbeat, with all his mechanical failures, some from the new Supra, but even the last couple of years, mechanical issues probably cost him a championship last year or a shot at it. Do you think he'll stick around with Walkinshaw or get fed up with the issues unless it changes? What's the contract situation there?
It's a very good question. Walkinshaw's they're pretty
quiet.
Yeah, tight-lipped on their contract situation, so it's often tough to get a read there. Look, at any point that he is off contract, he will be the headline act of the silly season because he is just so good. I do feel that having Scott O'Donnell come on board as one of buying into Walkinshaw, like that's as they went through the rebrand to Walkinshaw TWG. He is now a part owner of the team. Now, he was one of Ryan's biggest backers, or is one of Ryan's biggest backers, and has spent a lot of money on him to help get him to where he is. So I think that's probably brought a bit of good security for Walkinshaw in terms of Woody's commitment for the future. But like other offers are going to come. There's no doubt about it. And Woody, as I said, will feature in silly season conversations. So it's really up to Walkinshaw's to give him the hardware to ensure that he's not tempted by anywhere else.
I don't see him going anywhere only because I think he's very settled there and everything else. But
I don't think it's a short-term thing, and I think he is under contract for at least another year or so. But ultimately, it doesn't matter who owns the team or whatever. If you can't provide a talented driver with the car they think they deserve, they're going to entertain other offers. So we'll see what happens.
I think he's got enough skin in the game, but he'll probably get another trip to Monaco next year if he really wants to push it a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, mate. That'll about do us for this episode of Full Credit to the Noise. I know you've been extremely busy over the last 4 days or 5 days, so well done to that. Don't forget you can find this show on all the socials at FCTTN Podcast. You can read AVL's excellent work at speedcafe.com, where they break all the big motorsport news first. Until next time, I've been former Legend. He's been AVL. This has been Full Credit to the Noise, and we'll see you at Silverstone for MotoGPs.
See you there.
Full credit to the noise.